Bong! We are live. It's Saturday morning. I hope you guys are ready for a party. We got Decent AF in the chat. We got Molly Wicks in the chat. Hey, y'all. Thanks for joining us. We got some messages from King Mingo and Casey. Said they're not going to make it today. That's okay. We miss you guys. Hopefully you can watch the stream a little bit later. And then also, listen to us and, watch us later. Oh, Grit's in the chat. Grit, what's up, man? Long time no chat. Our good friend, our good buddy Grit, formerly on the Junk Door podcast. But yeah, if you want a really funny Twitter follow Grit. He's hilarious. Okay, well, guys, this is the CineBoiz podcast. We're part of the Corkbats Podcast Network. If you are watching us live on YouTube right now, thank you so much. We're really, really happy that you're here. If you're new, say hi in the chat. If you're a regular, say hi in the chat. We're really excited to have everybody today. If you are listening to us a little bit later on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, thank you so much. Please consider rate, reviewing, subscribing, all that good stuff. But yeah, we're here. Guys, how we doing? You look handsome.
Right back at you.
Everybody's looking handsome today.
Guys, I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Been so long.
Yeah, you've been like traveling the world, and yeah, I'm really happy you're back.
I'm just so glad to be here.
Who knows where Kevin is though? I don't know. But yeah, so again, if you've been following us on Twitter and Instagram this week, you know that today we're going to do a deep dive into one of our favorite movies. It's going to be a little bit more, organized this week than in past times where we've talked about a movie where I literally just read the plot from like Wikipedia and when we just stop and talk every once in a while. So we actually have like things to talk about, which is great. Let's see. Oh, before I forget, guys, happy National Saxophone Day.
All right, give me that sexy sax man, baby.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny thing.
Hold on, Mob. Let it ride. Let it ride for a second here. Had to hit you with it. You probably didn't see it, so I'm sorry, but had to play the sexy sax man for National Saxophone Day. What were you going to say, Mob?
No, you're good. One time in college, I'm sitting in my class, and out of nowhere, this guy just barges in and does the sexy saxophone guy, like walks down the aisle and doing it. And my professor looks at him and goes, "What are you doing? Yeah. What are you doing?" And then he literally chases him out of the auditorium, and we're all just sitting there like, "What just happened?"
Yeah, it was
and
like,
so,
yeah,
just what an experience. Love the sexy saxophone man.
Yeah,
always.
I'll probably hit you guys with it a few more times during the episode just because it's National Saxophone Day. Yeah, saxophone, what a sexy instrument. It's just beautiful. Sounds beautiful. Makes you feel just real good, love it. Let's see here. Well, guys, I mean, typically when we start our podcast, we're going to go through and we're going to ask each other what we're big on. So, Mob, why don't we start with you since you're on the East Coast, just like our friend Casey, who's moving to the East Coast. Can't be with us today, but really excited for that. But Mob, what are you big on?
So typically I don't read because I'm not educated enough.
And you don't know how. So
right.
Yeah.
So, but last week, world traveling, I was in Mexico sitting by a pool. And really when you're doing that, you read. And so I reread the book Red Rising. I'm just so big on that series. And I'm going to look at the camera when I say this, but Netflix, Amazon, HBO, one of you, pick it up, make it a TV show.
Yeah.
Because it is so good. And it would be so good as a TV series.
Yeah.
Then I don't have to read.
I totally agree with you. I'm 100% on board. No idea what it is, but like I'm with you. Like I trust if you like something you think it needs to be made into a movie or TV show, I'm with you.
It could be, I honestly believe this, it could be the next Game of Thrones. Like it's dystopian
That's
type
worldwide
stuff. It's got this whole world where it's in space, like people are on different planets, there's class levels, and it's the whole series has been awesome. And just the first 3 books. So the first 3 books are a series in of itself, and then the second 2, and then the third one coming out of that are like 10 years later. But it's just got so much content in it, and every time I read it, whenever I'm reading a book, I'm thinking like, how would this be as a movie or a TV show? And I'm just reading this book, and I'm like, through the first book, you have a season right there. And so,
cool.
One of you studios with money, do it.
Yeah, they listen to us, so
yeah,
we're gaining a lot of traction in the in the zeitgeist. Like for instance, Mob, you had texted me or texted us about it. The Manning cast. They're doing the Manning cast on Monday Night Football, where it's basically just like a live stream of Eli and Peyton.
Watching football.
I don't want to say we invented that kind of live stream style with our award shows, but like, come on, let's be honest.
Kind of did.
We were doing it before the Mannings.
That's true. That's a fact.
I mean, we have an awesome community who literally says, "I watch the CineBoiz instead of watching the award show." And when you're doing the Manning cast, that's what you're doing. You're not actually watching the game.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Bob, appreciate you. We're glad you're back. And then, of course, joined in his home office. And based on the shirt, you can guess that he is in Missouri. Our good friend Tom. Tom, how are you?
I am well.
Good.
Great to be here.
Good. Hey, man, what are you big on this week?
This week, so I actually just found this out this morning by way of Mob, but one of the bands that I really have come to appreciate over the last years, a little band called Houndmouth, released a new album yesterday. I have yet to listen to it, but that's very exciting. I'd say, alongside movies, music is another passion of mine. It probably comes in second place, though, to movies. But I do love music. I have been slowly acquiring a vinyl record collection over the last 5 or 6 years. And I will also say I don't know much about music, but I know what I like. And so this excites me. I'm excited to go listen to that.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. I've listened to the Houndmouth a few times. I do like them. I saw them live. They were really good live.
A lot of fun.
I think I saw them live. I don't know for sure. That's how I'm bad with concerts. I can't
think you
remember
did.
who's who. Yeah, I think
No,
I
I think you
probably
did.
did.
I think you were at Roots and Blues.
Yeah, that's where I thought
they
I saw
played.
them.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, well, cool. Well, thank you, Tom.
Mhm.
Well, should we move on or should?
Hey,
Oh,
hey,
yeah,
Kenny, I got a question for you.
yeah,
Normally it's Kevin's job, but
yeah.
he's not
Right,
here. So
right.
being the uglier of the two of us, between Tom and I'll ask. Hey, Kenny,
Yeah, what's up?
what you big on?
Okay, I'll tell you what I'm big on. So went to the movie theater last night. Did not see Eternals. I have yet to see it. Went and saw French Dispatch, which is hard to say, so I had to slow down there. But saw French Dispatch. Pretty good. You know, it's Wes Anderson. Here's what I'll say. And we were walking out of the theater last night. Wes Anderson, to me, is one of the most unique filmmakers. I love his visual style, and it's very yeah. There's the clap. Yeah, it's always interesting to watch, and it feel like it's very, for me, it's very visually stimulating. I just really enjoyed the look and feel of a Wes Anderson movie. That being said, I don't think I'm a huge like Wes Anderson movie fan overall. Like, I feel like the humor is great, but one of the things I noticed was that literally every time like something would like change, like a scene change, change the shot, whatever, people would just laugh in the theater. And it's like, it was that funny? Like, I don't get it. So Decent AF says, how was it? I would give it a solid B+. It's a great movie if you want to check it out. It's not very long either, so and it has 3 different big stories that they kind of talk about, but it is good.
Remember when there were rumors that it was like 6 hours?
Yeah. I think
yeah.
the original cut was like 4 hours long, and it's like,
Ugh.
I could not have done that.
That's too much Wes Anderson.
But I mean, I think the thing that I'm really big on was like, I went to the movie last night on a Friday night, and it was a full theater, and it was just like it was still an enjoyable experience, even though like I'm not the biggest Wes Anderson fan. I just really enjoy that feeling of on a Friday night being at a movie theater with other people and enjoying the same thing. And it was great. So I think that's more what I'm big on, is just the movie theater in general, and Alamo Drafthouse, which, shout out again, Alamo Drafthouse. You should sponsor this podcast, because we shout out all the time to Alamo Drafthouse, and start your season pass, please. It's getting expensive to go see a movie every weekend. So that being said, Molly Wick says, thought you were going to say you saw Clifford. No, I didn't see Clifford.
Yet.
But it's on the list. And then let's see. Yeah, chat's popping today. Decent AF says, my new Saturday morning tradition is watching CineBoiz and grading all my spelling tests. I'm going to guess. I'm not a detective. I'm going to guess that Decent AF is a teacher.
I'd put money on that.
Yeah, I'd
Prove
put good
it.
money on that. Yeah, and then let's see. Oh, Molly Wick says she heard the Discord notification. Yes, I have my Discord up. I forgot to turn it down, mute it. So you might hear Discord notifications throughout. Also, if you have not joined the Discord yet, like Kevin, who's still, as of like we're 3 weeks into the Discord now, and still no Kevin in the Discord. Or actually 2 weeks, but link to the Discord is in the description. So feel free to join. We'd love to have you in there. It's just a cool way to keep up with us during the week. And it's a fun way to just interact with the community. And we love our community, and it's a lot of fun. So if you want to be a part of that, you're more than welcome to. So be sure to join that. And then, yeah, guys, no headlines this week. Let's just get right into it. So, we were talking about it kind of throughout, there's the Discord notification. We were talking about it throughout the week on Twitter and Instagram, but we're going to talk about the movie Heat today. So I don't know. Obviously, we've all seen it. I don't know if everybody in the chat has seen it. I will say this before we get into it. I think it is the hands down best crime movie ever made. If we're just talking like heist crime, maybe not like organized crime, but best heist crime movie ever made. It's fantastic. It's a bit long. It's about 3 hours, but it moves fast. It's a Los Angeles crime saga. I'm going to go ahead and play the trailer real quick, if you guys don't mind. I know you're not going to be able to see it live on your guys' end, but for everybody that's in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and just play that for you real quick. So bear with me here. I'll get that started.
You want to be making moves on the street, have no attachments, allow nothing to be in your life that you cannot walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you spot the heat around the corner.
In the city of Los Angeles,
Recognize the MO? MO is that they're good. If you think these guys are scoring once and passing through, I doubt it.
a relentless police detective is on the trail
What do we got?
of a master thief.
You're fugitive number one with a bullet. It's double the risk here.
You're wrong. It's 4 times the risk, and I'm double the worst trouble you ever had.
Clear!
And his reckless partner.
The bank is worth the risk. We should take it down.
I want full surveillance, 24 hours, round the clock. We never close, open 7 days a week.
Assume they got our phones, assume they got our houses, assume they got us.
Bam, bye-bye.
They get more daring with every score.
What's the estimate?
12.2 million.
You're up.
But one cop
He's here. I can feel it.
is closing in.
Whatever score they're gonna take next, they're gonna have the surprise of a lifetime.
Now, for the first time, Academy Award winner Al Pacino and Academy Award winner Robert De Niro collide.
If I'm there and I gotta put you away, I'll tell you, you are going down.
Not done yet.
What if you do got me boxed in, and I gotta put you down? Because no matter what, you will not get in my way. I will not hesitate for a second.
Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Val Kilmer in a Michael Mann film, Heat.
Okay. Now I think it's safe to say that the trailer's done. So yeah, that was a lot longer. I feel like when I was like going through it earlier, I was like, oh yeah, this will be perfect. We'll just play the whole trailer. It won't take very long. And then I'm just sitting here just like, okay, we're probably losing people. People probably dropping out of the stream. So sorry about that. But if you haven't seen Heat, that's okay. We're going to try to make this as spoiler-free as possible. But then again, also the movie's, 26 years old. So if you haven't seen it yet, that's on you. But highly recommend it. I know it was on Netflix for a bit. I don't think it's there anymore. But as I was kind of like getting clips together and everything, you can actually watch it on YouTube. The whole movie's on YouTube. I don't know if that's like legal or not, but it's there. So, but yeah. So like I said, we're gonna kind of break it down a little bit more, organized this time as we have our movie discussion. I guess I'll start with the first question. Tom, I know you watched it last night because you were texting about it. Have you guys watched it recently?
Last night I watched it again. I have seen it before, but I don't think honestly I've seen it since college when you and I watched it like a couple times over Christmas break, like 1 year. So I needed a refresher. Watched it last night. Still just as good.
It still slaps. Like it's still great.
I watched it last time I watched it was a couple of years ago when I was sick. And it is honestly, it's a great movie, but it's also the perfect sick day movie. I know like when we first started this podcast, it was during COVID and we talked about sick days. Movies.
Every day was a sick day.
And Heat was my suggestion and it still stands. Like, I mean, because when you're sick, what are you doing? You're laying around not feeling good. And so you've got a 3-hour movie that's going to like, it goes and goes and goes and keeps you in. It's great. Yeah,
it's fantastic. So here's just a little bit of background on Heat. So it is written and directed by Michael Mann, and it stars Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Val Kilmer. All this I'm sure you surmised from the trailer. And it was released in theaters December 15th, 1995. So it's almost 26-year-old movie. But yeah, it's still fantastic. And, one of the things that I kind of want to jump into first is, let's just kind of talk about the script or the story, if you will. So if you haven't seen Heat, essentially what it is, it's billed as a Los Angeles crime saga. And it follows basically it's an ensemble cast, but it follows really 2 stories. One is of Robert De Niro's character, who is a master thief and his team of thieves as they take scores in Los Angeles. And the other kind of storyline is the Al Pacino storyline, where Al Pacino is a decorated Los Angeles PD detective, and his team as they're trying to kind of capture these guys. And it's a long movie. It's about 3 hours long, and it's really just these two stories intersecting, throughout the whole runtime. And there's a couple things that's really interesting to me about the script. If I'm just gonna say real quick about from a personal level, if I'm watching this movie, the script is perfect, the story is perfect, and what I mean by that is that there's really no plot holes. Everything that happens in the story, as insignificant as you might think it is important, and everything ties together really, really well. Like if you the first time I ever watched Heat, you can follow it pretty easily because a story like Heat doesn't require a lot of context or necessarily like exposition. It's cops and robbers. So, I mean, if you understand the cops and robber dynamic, then it's going to be pretty easy to follow. But what you don't get maybe on like the first watch through is like how every character is important, how every character relates to every other character, and it flows so well like throughout the whole runtime. So yeah, I mean, what do you guys think, thinking about like the overall story and script? Do you have like thoughts about it? Like anything that stands out to you in particular?
Mob, you go first.
No, I would just agree with what you said. Kind of like what I said earlier, like you're always gripped. There's not a wasted scene. Right. There's a lot of movies where there's like, okay, that's kind of a filler. That wasn't needed. And for a 3-hour movie, you see that a lot. But in this one, there's not a wasted scene. There's not a wasted word. And that's what makes it just so awesome to watch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I just feel like it was so well written. And I think, the points that you guys have already made about, pretty easy to follow, why everything's happening. I think that just is telling of a good script writer.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a script that Michael Mann had actually written years before, and it's kind of based on a true story, which is something I didn't know until today when I was kind of digging into it. But essentially, it's based on the real life robber Neil McCauley. It didn't take place in Los Angeles; it took place in Chicago, and it's based off a book I believe written by the detective who spent time trying to actually arrest Neil McCauley and his crew. So it took place, real life Neil McCauley story took place in the 60s in Chicago. And then Michael Mann developed that script basically off the book into a pilot. I forget the name of the show, but essentially it was after Miami Vice, which Michael Mann was creator of Miami Vice. And then he had a pilot for this show that was going to be about, the Neil McCauley story. They made a 90-minute pilot. Studio was like, hey, or the network was like, hey, we really don't like this actor who's playing the detective, and you need to recast. Michael Mann said no, and so essentially just got canceled. You can find, I forget the name of the show, like I said, but you can find like the 90-minute pilot on DVD for sale.
I think it's called, because I was looking at this up last night. I was just going through Michael Mann's filmography, and it's called LA Takedown.
Yes,
and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
And I clicked on it, and it's like, wait, this is the exact same movie. It's same characters. Just like, so I was just kind of confused by that, but that's good to know because I didn't know that it was supposed to be like a show. Yeah. It just is listed as like a TV movie now.
Right. So Michael Mann in the 80s, he directed one like feature film that was kind of like a crime film, Thief. And then after Thief, they developed Miami Vice, and then they did Miami Vice. And so then it was like, okay, well, we're going to develop another pilot for NBC, and it was supposed to be this story. And then, essentially it didn't work out because Michael Mann didn't want to recast. And so essentially what happened is he repurposed it, rewrote it to be a film script. They turned it into a 3-hour movie. I think today what makes it really interesting is that if they waited even longer, I would see this more, being developed as like a mini-series. For like HBO or Showtime or something like that, like a 12-part miniseries, which would be great, I'm sure. But selfishly, we got the movie, and the movie's perfect, in my opinion. So
and now it's to the point where it's like, don't do that. Let the movie just live. Let it
be.
Yeah.
Let it be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
First, have any of you guys seen the movie Thief?
No, I've never actually seen it.
All right. Well, I guess, do we know if that takes place in Los Angeles? Because I was
I
thinking
don't know.
if it does, you've got Thief, you've got Heat, and then Collateral,
Mm-hmm.
all taking place in LA.
Yeah,
Is that like Michael Mann's LA trilogy?
maybe. Well, let's
But I
kind
don't
of
really know anything about Thief. I
Sure.
haven't seen it yet.
Sure. Talking kind of, that's a good segue from script, story to direction. So, I mean, Michael Mann, obviously director of the movie, and Michael Mann is kind of known for like crime movies. And if you look at like the trajectory of Michael Mann movies over time, they have an interesting evolution to where you have the '80s movies. So you had like Thief, you had Manhunter, which was the Hannibal Lecter film that he did. And then Heat is kind of like a transition from like those '80s, just pocket crime movies to where he kind of went into in like the early 2000s, which is like this documentary style, shaky cam movies like Collateral, Public Enemy, stuff like that. But Heat, you can kind of see that transition starting to happen. It's very, I wouldn't say like, it feels like a 90s movie. It doesn't feel like it's like beyond its time by any means. It is timeless, I'll say that. Like I feel like you can obviously still watch it today and be thoroughly entertained. But you start seeing like how his direction is kind of evolving a little bit. I'll say this too. I mean, with Michael Mann, this is a big, he's made movies before, he's made TV shows before this point. This is a big deal. You've got Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, the great Val Kilmer, and you have to weave all these stories together. It's yeah.
Well, and it's your follow up to The Last of the Mohicans.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Which is another great movie.
Yeah, fantastic movie. But he does such a masterful job of kind of weaving all these stories together, and directing it. That kind of brings us into like the acting portion of it, which may be the most standout feature of this film is how well acted it is. Because you've got De Niro, you've got Pacino, you got Val Kilmer, and I don't think there's like a, as McConaughey would say, there's not a false note in the bunch. Like everybody does a great job.
Yeah.
And what's awesome, like you have those big three names, but you also have some like awesome character type
minor
actors in there
characters
as well, like Hank Azaria.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
You've got Allstate Dennis
David
Dennis
Palmer.
Haysbert. Yeah.
The greatest president we never had.
Yeah.
And you got a young Natalie Portman.
Young Natalie Portman's in it too. Yeah. She does a great
job.
I
did not realize until I was watching last night how little of the movie she's actually in.
But she's there.
But she is there, and it is a
Right. I think there's like obviously the acting class is the diner scene with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. I'm actually just gonna play a clip real quick of the diner scene. Bear with me 1 second here.
We're sitting here. You and I are like a couple of regular fellas. You do what you do, I do what I gotta do. And now that we've been face to face, if I'm there and I gotta put you away, I won't like it. But I'll tell you, if it's between you and some poor bastard whose wife you're gonna turn into a widow, brother, you are going down.
There's a flip side to that coin. What if you do got me boxed in? Then I gotta put you down. Because no matter what, you will not get in my way. We've been face to face, yeah. But I will not hesitate. Not for a second.
Maybe that's the way it'll be. Or, who knows?
Well, maybe we'll never see each other again.
Yeah, that scene. I mean, it's a lot longer than that, but it's such a unique. I don't think you've seen anything like that in a crime movie before, where like that scene is that these guys obviously know who each other is. Like, you're a cop, I'm a thief, you're following me, and we're just gonna sit in a diner and have a conversation while you're investigating me. And they have this like conversation, which I think is integral to the whole point of the movie, is that these guys, like, in another life, probably best friends.
Yeah.
Like, they have very, very similar outlooks on life. And that's essentially what they're talking about, is like why they do what they do. And it's just fantastic. Like, it's like, yeah, this feels real. This feels like a conversation that would actually happen. And that's just one small part. You know, again, we're talking about how, like, there's so many actors in this movie, and every scene seems like, you know, just, yeah, you probably teach it in acting classes because of how well it's done.
Yeah. So in my research of the movie, that coffee shop scene is what sold De Niro on doing the movie. They apparently, like, that was the scene they were most excited to shoot.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, because wasn't this like a huge deal that it was the first time you got Pacino and De Niro in the same movie? Or
it was the first
same screen time together.
Same screen time.
Yeah.
Because they've been in Godfather Part 2, but never,
That's right.
never together.
Yeah, they had never up till that point had acted in a movie in a scene together, or like in a movie where, like, you know, in Godfather 2 was like flashbacks.
Right.
To young Vito Corleone, and then forward to Michael Corleone. So I mean, they didn't really interact in any way. So this was the first time where you have that threaded through the movie. And then, you know, of course, we got the amazing follow-up, Righteous Kill. Ugh. Which, could we say that was better than Heat?
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
What a major disappointment.
That movie was a piece of shit. But another great Pacino, De Niro collab. And then there, of course, Irishman, which came out a couple years ago, which is fantastic. Such a good movie. Yeah. But Heat is 3 hours, and Irishman is like, what, 4.5 hours long? So
about 3.5, I think.
Yeah, 3.5. Yeah, so it's even more of a commitment than Heat, but it's worth it. I mean, acting-wise, just phenomenal movie. And then technical stuff. I mean, you know, I wouldn't say that this movie is like particularly groundbreaking in the way that it's, you know, shot or anything like that, but there's a few things that stand out to me. And I think the biggest thing, and I can play the clip here in a second, is the sound of this movie.
Yes.
So there is, you know, so many scenes where it's just like, the sound is like, yeah, I feel like this is what it would actually sound like in real life. It doesn't sound like it's all, you know, made up in post-production. And, you know, there's not like a ton of like, you know, extra added effect. Oh, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
It's because there wasn't. So instead of dubbing, they put microphones on the set to capture
to amplify
the gunfire.
It. Yeah.
Right. I think the most telling, and I'll just go ahead and play the clip here, is there's a pretty much like mid part of the movie, there's a downtown shootout between the police and Robert De Niro's crew, and it's fantastic, and it's so loud, like it captures you and kind of brings you into it. But here's the clip.
Get down.
So yeah, I mean, it's just it's like that. I feel like if I were in downtown Austin right now and there was a big shootout, that's what that would sound like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just love too how with movies like this, I feel like Michael Mann does a great job of utilizing like the cities themselves in the movies.
Yeah.
And just every scene, like we've said, is like has a purpose, has meaning, and I just feel like being able to utilize actual city shots just enhances everything about the movie.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, there's a shot in particular that I always think about that it's not like super consequential, but it's like it's something that always stood out to me. It's the scene kind of earlier in the movie when Robert De Niro and Jon Voight are in the parking garage and they're just kind of like talking, and you see like the overshot of like downtown Los Angeles, or at least part of it.
Yeah.
And it's like you feel like you're immersed in Los Angeles. It's almost as if like Los Angeles is kind of like another character in the film. And I mean, the subtitle of the movie is a Los Angeles crime saga. So I think he does a really good job of, making Los Angeles just as much a part of the movie as a character, or a story point. So it's really cool. It's immersive. I think that's probably the best way to put it. Yeah, but yeah, I mean the sound effects, the way that they wired it for sound is just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can watch it on like a home theater system, or see it in a theater, maybe a theater's gonna show it, because that happens. Like, go see it. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it's one that I wish like I could have first experienced in a theater.
Yeah, same.
I was talking to a buddy last night. He was like, "Have you seen Dune yet?" And I was like, "No, I'm waiting for the theater. It's a theater experience." And I feel like Heat would have been this if it were to come out tomorrow. I'd be like going to the theater. I don't want to see it anyway else for my first experience.
sure.
Yeah. And I was also thinking like multiple times while I was watching this last night, like how so much of this feels a lot like Drive as well.
Yeah.
Just like these long city shots, quiet, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're immersed in like this quick action. And also like the soundtrack too is very similar, but we'll get to that here in a minute, I think. So
Yeah, no, that's actually what I was just about to talk about, is that, the soundtrack to Heat, there's a few things I think that really stand out about it, that add to it. One is that if when we played that clip of the trailer and then also the bank heist scene or the shootout scene, there's that kind of soundtrack in the back of the percussion, like dum 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 dum, kind of like that. And it's like, it's quiet. It's not like overwhelming, but it creates like a sense of like urgency. Like, hey, we gotta go.
Yeah. And then there's those like more quiet moments where it's just like conversations taking place, and the soundtrack is just a lot more atmospheric and like kind of creates the environment that they're in.
Yeah, there's definitely like a kind of a late 80s, early 90s like guitar, like
synth and guitar vibe.
Yeah, and I used to listen to like certain songs from the soundtrack when I would study in college, because it's just like kind of atmospheric. I don't know, but Elliot Goldenthal was the one who actually did the soundtrack for the film. But yeah, I mean, there's good contrast between those scenes where it's like, hey, we need to kind of feel like there's some some movement here, and then also those slower scenes where it's like, hey, you just kind of want to like for instance, the one scene that stands out to me is the scene with Robert De Niro and Amy Brenneman, where they're at his house.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, Los Angeles, and there's kind of the music playing in the background, and everything is just atmospheric. Everything's kind of slowed down. You see Robert De Niro's character in a different different light than you
like
do.
More sympathetic.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that this soundtrack is what ultimately is, driving that or helping that story arc along. So, but I guess, bottom line, let's just go ahead and say it. Like, let's go ahead and let's rate this movie. Here's what I'll say. I think on Rotten Tomatoes, let's see.
It's like 80 or 90 something, I think.
Heat, 1995. On Rotten Tomatoes, it looks like it has a 87% score on Rotten Tomatoes, which is fair. I would put this in one of those movies that I revisit, and I will always revisit. So I'd probably, if I were personally rating this on Rotten Tomatoes, I'd probably put it in like the 95% range. I'd dock it 5 points for being long, but again, it moves fast. So,
yeah,
Mob, what would you rate this movie?
I think you said it. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago when you said Dune was rewatchable, which is one of the highest compliments you can give a movie, and that's what I would say about Heat. Insanely rewatchable.
Yeah.
Once a year, maybe even more. It's so good. I would give it 12 LaCroix out of 7.
12 LaCroix out of 7?
That's
wow, that math is weird and great at the same time.
I also said at the beginning, I am uneducated.
Also, did you be honest? Did you look at something on your desk to give it a rating? Like you just have a can of LaCroix right there? Nailed it. Guessed it. There you go. Is that the watermelon flavor?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just had that this week. It's pretty good. Tom, what would you rate this movie?
I mean, I'm gonna give this movie 5 stars.
Okay.
And I do say that like aware of like my own easily entertained kind of personality. Like I think there's a lot of great movies out there, and a lot of them can be highly rated, but this one really is, I feel like, a perfect movie. Even despite the length, like I enjoy long epics.
Yeah, sure.
And this is one of those movies. And yeah, everything we've talked about, like it's just well written. Each character is developed well over the whole 2.5, 3 hour length time. And it's just a great story. And yeah, I just love it.
So I think what sets this one apart, right, is like it. Yeah, you're right, Tom. It falls into like the category of easily entertaining movies, right? Like heist movies are you typically easily entertaining. You just need some big explosions, some gunfights, some, and you're good to go and you're entertained, and throw in the rock and it's like, oh yeah, we're good. It's awesome. But like this one has structure. It has, like Kenny said, a plot with no holes. Like it's actually a good movie.
Yeah.
As opposed to the movies that I enjoy that I wouldn't consider good movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, no, it's great. Fantastic movie. And I would be remiss if I didn't play a clip from the best scene in the entire movie. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now.
Why'd I get mixed up with that bitch?
Because she got a great ass. And you got your head all the way up it.
Jesus. When I think of asses, woman's ass, something comes out of me.
Oh, man. Best scene in the whole movie by far.
It was ad-libbed.
Yeah.
It was ad-libbed. So Hank Azaria's like reaction, he didn't know that was coming. And like my favorite part about it is he looks like he wants to say big ass.
Yeah.
But he switches it to great, right? Because it was all ad-libbed.
Yeah. He's like, there's scenes in that movie where he's like unhinged. And I
Yeah.
read something, I think I talked about it on the podcast before, but he, originally the character was supposed to have like a cocaine addiction. And
Makes
like,
sense.
they filmed
Yeah.
a lot of the movie with that assumption, and then like they decided to just take it out. And so there's just scenes where he's like totally normal, and then scenes like that where he's just like he's lost it. Like
Eyes are popping out.
I was gonna say, I feel like Al Pacino is probably the most theatrical detective I've ever seen in any sort of TV or movie. Because I feel like you watch shows like the First 48 or whatever, they're all very quiet, very reserved, very like serious. But he's out there, hoo ha,
yeah.
great ass.
There's another scene earlier in the movie which I didn't get the clip for, but he's interviewing like a informant that he has like on the street, and it's like really early in the movie, and he just like goes to the junkyard where this informant's at, and then he's just like talking to him, and it's just like he's losing his mind. It seems like he's like, there's also the scene with Tone Loc in the club where he's like,
Oh yeah.
man, I get shot and killed for telling you things, and he's like, you get shot walking your doggy.
Yeah.
What? What are you talking about, man? Give me all you got. He's fantastic. Well, I mean, that's it for our discussion of Heat, and we'll definitely transition here into some anniversaries. But before I do that, I think it's time that maybe we. There it is. Happy National Saxophone Day, everybody. I told you I was going to bring it back at some point. Okay.
Do you remember the SNL skit where John Hamm just like
Yes.
bursts in
Sergio.
everywhere?
Yeah.
Sergio.
Yes, very much remember that. Well, okay. Tom, how about we do some movie anniversaries this week, my man?
You got it. Happy 5-year anniversary to Doctor Strange.
Good movie.
Pretty good
It
Marvel
is.
movie. It's very good.
I discounted it because I went through a anti-Benedict Cumberbatch stage. Then I actually watched Sherlock, and it's fantastic. And
Why?
now I'm pro.
Why did you have an anti-Benedict Cumberbatch stage?
He just like, to me, he was one of those people who everyone seemed to love, and I didn't understand it. And so I went the complete opposite way for no reason.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like now I can say that honestly and say like it was just like it was like you need to see this, and I'm like I'm good without seeing that, so I'm going to go on the opposite way. Like when I was younger and I wasn't allowed to read Harry Potter, so I went the opposite way and said it sucked.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a personal choice.
It's
it was wrong.
Did you guys see that when he hosted SNL, the skit they did? It's like a game show skit, and it's like, why is Benjamin Cumberbatch hot or something like that?
Yeah.
And no one can explain it, but they're all like very well like enthralled by him, and they get lost in his eyes. It's great. It's funny.
Yeah. So, but my wife made me watch Sherlock, and I get it now. Sherlock is an awesome TV show.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's good.
Then I watched Doctor Strange.
Nice. Happy 10-year anniversary to The Muppets.
Great movie. I'm pro Muppet, 100%. This is a pro Muppet podcast. I decided.
Yeah.
The
Very
Muppets
much,
will always be funny to me, no matter how old I get.
Always.
Yeah.
And finally, happy 25-year anniversary to Ransom.
Ransom.
Which is a great movie, too.
Give me back my son.
Yeah. At least I used to think it was great. I haven't seen it in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Solid movie, though. You get Gary Sinise's bad guy. You don't see that very often. Oops, spoiler. Well, cool. Well, Tom, thank you so much for the movie anniversaries. Guys, I want to thank you again for joining me here this lovely Saturday morning. I also want to thank everybody who was in the chat with us today. So, Decent AF, Grit, Molly Wicks, thank you so much. Mob, you're in there too. So, there you go. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Decent AF says, Al Pacino is so funny. Agreed. What a character that guy is. But again, we are the CineBoiz podcast. We are part of the Cork Bats podcast network. If you're watching us right now on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Be a part of the Cork Bats family. Get all your great video Cork Bats content right here. You can also check out the Cork Bats website, corkbats.com. We've been writing there a lot, so there's a lot of blog posts from the CineBoiz, and you can check out our stuff there, and some of the other writers for Cork Bats. It's always good stuff. If you listen to us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, thank you so much. Please consider rating, reviewing, and subscribing. That goes a long way for us. And if you're wanting to make your own podcast, check out Anchor. A little ad break there. They pay us now, so there you go. And you're going to hear an Anchor ad probably at the beginning of this if you're listening. So that's part of the gambit now. We're getting big. We're making money. That's how things work. But yeah. And then, of course, social media. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the CineBoiz. You can also email us, cineboyspodcast@gmail.com. Mob, you are the arbiter of our email. Have we gotten any new emails lately?
No.
Okay, cool.
I mean, we have mainly Twitter notifications. Like I'll tweet something out and then I'll get an email like 5 minutes later that says CineBoiz podcast mobservations tweeted. Or Kenny will tweet something and I'll get a notification. That's about it.
Yeah. You can also follow us on Twitter. You see my Twitter handle, Mob's Twitter handle, Tom's Twitter handle. Kevin's on Twitter too, but we're not going to promote him today because he decided not to come.
He's also like you have to request to follow him. He's got the little lockbox on him. And here's what's funny. Here's what's hilarious to me. I will see him tweet at like a normal, like a famous person, something. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't know that person can't see what he's tweeting because he has protected tweets and that person doesn't follow him. He's such a boomer.
Such a boomer. Oh, sweet, sweet Kevin. Also, Kevin, as of, it's been, 45 minutes, still has not joined the Discord. Give you a little Kevin has not joined the Discord update. And then, of course, finally, you can also follow Cork Bats on social media, at Cork Bats on Twitter, and then at Cork Bats 2 on Instagram. So check that out. But that's pretty much it. Guys, you got anything else you want to say?
Nope.
All right. Well,
thoughts and prayers out to Derrick Henry.
Yes. R.I.P. Derrick Henry. All right. Well, catch you guys later.
Later.